Yes, the boys, the girls, the guys, the gals. Right, today we are down Stychbrook Manor. I fucking love this place, I do, honest to God. Like, this is my childhood, this place. I feel like they're gonna redevelop it this year. I don't know why, I've just got a feeling in my fingers. I feel like this year, this summer, this place is gonna be absolutely flattened. So I want to document it exactly as it is now. Which is good in all fairness. Well, it's not good, it's horrendous. Look over there, look. See the houses over there? Them houses are going to be here soon. And the only thing separating them is going to be Watery Lane. They just can't stop building, can they? Do you know what I mean? And I feel like this is next on the hit list. I really do. There's so much history as well here. Oh well, is what it is. You know, as well, for the past 2 years, every summer, from say 4 o'clock on till about 8 o'clock, I've literally been sat in that pond there. This is the first time that pond's been full for years. Like, literally, it's got to be 15 years the last time that pond was full. Obviously, the amount of rain that we've had this year has filled it up, innit? I really strongly believe that there's some sort of Saxon bloody settlement down here, or some medieval tribe or something like that. I really, really do. Anyway, let's get into the video, let's get into it.
If you were brought up in the Dimbles, it's likely that the old barn was your playground. What's left today doesn't immediately give much away, but this was once Stychbrook Manor, and the story behind it reaches much further back than the building most people remember. The name itself, Stychbrook, isn't something that appeared in the 1800s with the farmhouse. It's much older than that and tied directly to the landscape, particularly to a nearby watercourse called Circuit Brook, which runs a few hundred yards south of where the house once stood. And when you start looking into it properly, there's a strong case that this place was part of an established estate here by at least the medieval period, with records showing land at Stychbrook being mentioned as early as the 13th century, and possibly even earlier than that, as far back as the Domesday Book of 1086, where a place called Tichebroc is recorded in the Lichfield area, which over time likely evolved into what we now know as Stychbrook. By the 17th century, we know for certain that there was a house here, because in 1666 it was recorded as having 6 hearths. And that matters more than it might sound at first, because a hearth in that period wasn't just a fireplace in the modern sense. It was any fixed point used for fire, whether that was for heating or cooking, and a house with 6 of them would have been well above average for the time, pointing to a relatively large and well-established property rather than a small basic farmhouse. The building that most people remember, the one that stood here into the 20th century, wasn't that original house. It was a later phase, most likely built in the early 19th century. But even then, it still sat within a layout that had clearly been shaped over a much longer period of time, and that overall arrangement is still visible in the ground today. If you stand here now and look north, you've got the old barn on slightly higher ground. And then about 100 yards south of that is where the house foundations sit. Mostly gone now, but still traceable. And then moving south another 100 yards further down the slope, you reach what looks like a shallow hollow, which for about 10 years has stood bone dry, but thanks to the last winter where it absolutely hammered it down for 6 months, it's been able to fill with water again. This is the old fish pond. At first glance, it could easily be dismissed as just a natural dip in the land, but it's not, because when you look at the shape of it and then compare it with LiDAR data, it becomes clear that this pond was part of something that was far more deliberate, because we have a channel from Circuit Brook on the west of the pond leading straight into it, and an outlet into Circuit Brook on the east side of the pond. Man-made cut channels that lead directly down towards Circuit Brook. And natural drainage would usually appear more irregular, and less defined than this. What that tells you is that this pond wasn't just collecting rainwater, it was being actively managed, with water likely brought in from the brook, held at a controlled level and then allowed to flow out again. And when you place that within the wider layout, with the barn on higher ground, the house in the middle and the pond sitting lower with the brook beyond it, you start to see a system rather than just a collection of features. That kind of setup is typical of older estates, particularly those with medieval origins. And at the very least, what you can say with confidence is that this land wasn't just occupied, it was engineered. By the 20th century, the site was still functioning as a farm, and in 1920 the wider estate was sold to a tenant farmer named Evan Weston, spelled W-E-S-T-O-N, which is obviously where Weston Road takes its name from, the family that once farmed at the end of it. Although that part isn't fully proven with the time that I give myself to make these videos. What is clear is that the farm remained active into the mid-1900s before things started to change. During that later period, the farm wasn't just a working agricultural site, because it also briefly became the setting for community events, including an occasion where It's a Knockout was held on the land, bringing large crowds and turning what had once been a quiet estate into something much more public, even if only for a short time. In the early 1970s, the property was sold again, and after that point it appears to have been left empty, and within a few years it had already begun to fall into serious decline, with reports of vandalism and damage, and even a fire recorded on the site in the mid-1970s. By 1976, despite its condition, there were already plans being put forward to redevelop the land, including a proposal to build a hotel here. Over my dead body, mate. Seriously, don't even think about it. Thankfully, that development never went ahead, and by the early 1980s, the house itself was being described publicly as an absolute wreck. And while the exact moment of its loss isn't clearly recorded, everything points to a combination of long-term neglect, damage and failed redevelopment, ultimately leading to its demolition. Locally, there's still stories about how that happened, including claims that the house was deliberately demolished after objections were raised against the development in the area. The most solid story I heard was one from a resident in Elmhurst. They said they objected to the hotel being built, and the owners of the farm took the funnies, so they just demolished it and left it as it is. Now, none of that's documented fact, but what can be said for certain is that the site was abandoned, and over time nature has started to take it back. Now all that really remains is the barn, the foundations and a cellar that until recently was still accessible, and obviously the pond, which until this winter sat dry for at least 10 years, still holding its shape in the ground, and still connected in the ground to the brook below it. What remains here isn't just the trace of a single building, but the outline of a landscape that's been used, shaped and managed over centuries. And the real question isn't just what happened to Stychbrook Manor, but how far back this place actually goes, and how much of it's still hidden beneath your feet.